Right, welcome back. This is a discussion of Techhnolyze episode 4, or 3 and 4, as they are kind of a unit, if you want to see it like this. Let's jump right into it and kind of analyze what's happening. We had the setup in episode 3, so we don't have to talk too much about episode 3, obviously. A lot of stuff going on and seeds being sown with Ichi's mother and all of the other players in the game, right? Our dude getting attacked by the Salvation Union, and our boy finding out that he's gonna get technolized and not wanting that very much, and us kind of low-key now in episode 4 being at the very center of that synapse, right? The connection between nerves. Well, one of them, right? We have neurons, and the ends of the neurons are called synapses or synapses, and they are responsible for the transduction of electrical signals through our brains in order to make things happen like that, right? Like the motor functions of what we can actually do. And also our perception and everything else, right? Different synapses, different neurotransmitters. Obviously, a lot of this is like sci-fi technology and semi-pseudoscience, right? There's not, like, we don't have to kind of apply this to realism. A lot of what we're seeing is what people imagine the future could look like, and it doesn't really matter how. It matters more like in which way does it show itself, right? We do have the divide between the people who are technolized and the people who refuse to be or who can't be actually poor, whatever. We have that later when she says what a privilege it is for like somebody like you to actually get the pleasure of being technolized. I love these shots. The shots of like just the dirty floor with like the crevices between the different tiles, and you do have broken glass lying on top of it and it reflecting what's up ahead. These are the kinds of shots that are lifting a scene beyond of what a simple image can tell. Well, not really, because this is a simple image, but you know what I mean. You're looking at a highly complex picture that is able to represent more that exists of the world than actually the shot we are looking at. Because we're not just the floor is represented, but we also see what the environment kind of looks like. A very small glimpse of that through a reflection of the glass of the building that's up ahead, that's right above us, and he's standing on top of the broken glass. I do wonder what symbolism that is, right? Him standing on top of broken world. You have like the almost like the decaying mannequins in a shop. It kind of symbolizes that business is going very badly, right? People are suffering, and he's looking around and everybody's miserable, right? All of you, like I said, during the reaction, there's so much life in these shots. There's so much depth in these shots. Every frame we're going past, we see a glimpse of somebody, some person dejected or looking at us suspiciously or whatever. We do have environments that are multi-layered, right? The wall on the one side with the rain drainage, and we have this guy sitting on top, a rusty maybe oil barrel, and we do have the stairs going up to another courtyard or something, and he's kind of low-key. He's going through the environment, but he's also slightly and softly interacting with it. This is what we call like telling a story. He's stepping over somebody here. He could be like, we could have a shot where somebody's sitting at the stairs like that, and you're just walking past them. And you're not interacting, you're not making your way around them, right? But by making your way around them, you acknowledge them as something that is within the environment, and it connects you as the person going through the environment in a movie, in a shot, in whatever, right? It connects you to the environment more deeply than it would if you would just be a passenger that is moving through an environment without interacting with it. It's the same if you're just jumping over a balustrade or if you're or a ledge or whatever, right? If you're quickly touching a door while you're going through a doorway, because the door is like halfway open maybe, but it's not open enough for me to just go through it. The contrast to that would be going through the doorway because the door is already open enough for me to just be able to go through without touching anything or right? And there's a difference in how we as the audience perceive that, how we feel when we look at that. And oftentimes when we go through these environments and we lightly touch them, interact with them, right? We acknowledge their existence. The main character, I say we, but the main character or the person that specific scene is focusing on, they acknowledge the existence of the environment by interacting with the environment. Oftentimes we feel like the environment feels more real to us, right? It feels more tangible. Love the angles that we're using, and also the top-down shots where we see just the rooftops and the buildings, everything, because you see, right, the little water towers that are on top of it, and the little building tops where you like can kind of probably have a door going out where you can access the roof from, because there was a staircase going up and you just go outside of the roof, and there's all of these cables that are spanning from left to right, and he's moving down, he's moving up, he's moving past people. There's so much happening in the environment as he's observing it, as he's going through it, as he is living within it. You almost feel like an explorer of a world that is foreign to you. And for both the audience and supposedly him, at least that's what we're supposed to believe, I think, this is the case. We are in an environment that is not native to us and that we are exploring with our gazes, with our looks, with the way we interact with it. Insane, that shot, right? Of him like being all up, chest out, really good posture and all of that, being tall, and this, I don't know how old they are, right? That is very hard to make out. Could be an old man or could be a young boy that never properly developed. And that just shows, right, the missing arm and being shriveled up and everything, and being very, very, very low in stature as well. It makes sense for a world that is full of deficit, full of malnutrition, full of a rough life growing up, right? And the rougher your life growing up, the less resources you actually get, the less actual vitamins and the less food you get, the less properly you will be able to develop, be that your brain, be that your body in this case, right? Losing a limb, very interesting. And we have to focus on the limb, which I find very interesting because later on he says something about it that I wanted to reread, but I'm not sure. And he's kind of thinking of Ran. I don't know why exactly. We explain a little bit something about the Techhnolyze. Strength and responsiveness, and she was like the priority was on to cover up the artificial feeling, to make the limbs feel in power and strength and everything, and responsiveness, how normal limbs would feel. And I think that makes perfect sense to have that idea at the very least. First of all, we humans are very feeling based, right? So if something feels weird, if it feels wrong, right, kimochi-bari, right, then it's hard to get used to it. But also, the more something feels like the thing we are used to, the thing we grew up with, the thing we learned doing, the easier it is for us to pick it up. That's transferable skills. And especially when it comes to limbs and whatnot. People, when they get there's prosthetic limbs these days as well. And people, if they get prosthetic limbs these days, it takes them a very long time to get used to actually controlling them properly. I mean, it's the same with, it takes a long time for somebody who maybe lost a hand, right, the right hand, the dominant hand, to actually get used to dealing, right, to being able to use their non-dominant hand, because they have to out of necessity. It takes a long time because they grew up learning something different. It feels different, right? The strength is different, so you can easily break something or apply too light a touch because you have no no idea how you're supposed to use it. And she just went into the dominant side of technology, which is like make them stronger, make them more responsive, make them everything, right? And that's cool for like high-tech applications when you're already used to these limbs. It's not gonna help people who are new to that technology, but I feel like this is a world that doesn't give people who are new to that technology a lot of that technology. We get the feeling that there's a certain class of people that are used to getting technolized, and the rest of them are not. And they will never be because their status is too low, be that because of money or be that because of how they're being born, right? Or what organizations they belong to. We see that in everything, right? Even in the little scenes that are here and there, the injustices that are happening every day, the fear of the people. The true ruler of Lucas is an organization called Organo. The city was originally under the relaxed autonomous control of the chief of Gabe or chief of the mountain. Autonomous control. So you did have, I don't know what the chief of the mountain means, but autonomous control tells me it's all kind of automated, right? AI-ish maybe, or if we want to talk about like autonomous control in the sense of they're autonomous from everybody else outside of Lucas, which could also be the case. But the Organo took over using a strong competitive capabilities and organizational strength, right? Strength in numbers and strength in what skills they had and developed and whatnot, and who they took in and who they nurtured and everything. This is an interesting shot, first like semi-religious shot I feel like in this series. Although there's surely a lot of stuff that can be transferred to a religion and from religion in terms of like being fundamentalist, right? Being extremist in a way, being like having dogmatic views and stuff like that. But yeah, and we later actually recognize that this is information of the limbs that are being sent to our friend here, who is just, I guess, relaxing, and maybe he has to take care of the limbs because they're like very maintenance heavy. That is a possibility, right? We have the phases with mechanical engineering, Techhnolyze units joins human body using nanocarbon intermediary. This is very interesting. Let me go back there. Targets the cornea, right? The thing, I think it's the cornea is actually the colored thing in the eye, or maybe it's like the very inside of the pupil. I don't know. Oh no, it's the black ring, right? The cornea. Let me just. Oh yeah, the cornea is, yeah, okay. It was an English translation problem, or rather, like I'm not. I should maybe be versed of that, but I only know the retina. Yeah, it's the frontal part of the skin, of the eye, not the back. The back is the retina, I know that, but the cornea, and conveys neural information reciprocally with the motor area. Okay. So it targets that, and it conveys neural information reciprocally with the motor area. How is it mutually conveying information with the motor area? So I guess it's kind of trying to find... But how is it in sync with the motor area, I wonder? The Techhnolyzed human sees with vision the information given by the Techhnolyzed unit, right? So it's sending signals to our brain and to the areas where in the eye it can be displayed. It may be annoying, but it's necessary, blah, blah, blah. To operation properly, yeah. So you'll have to bear with it. And these more phase vital to technologization. The black magic phase. I'm like, what? I'm sorry, what? Like what? Voodoo? I mean, I can guess what they mean. Black magic means we fucking don't know what happens there. Like, we know what we have to do to build it, right? To make it happen, but we don't know how it works. And the only person who knows how it works is that person, which is we heard the name. Your father's work when he was alive, Raffia. But I don't know what Raffia is. Is that his father? Right, his father's name? Is it a project, right? The work of his father? Weird. And his father got hung or hung himself, so... Man has been repeating the process of trial and error for ages in order to find a means to compensate for lost limbs. Generation of body parts through tissue engineering is not appropriate for us now. Transplantation of other individuals' body parts leads to rejection, which is the thing that eliminates that rejection. Oh, okay. Okay, interesting. Wait a moment. Regeneration through engineering often provokes sharp rejection by our bodies. The thing that eliminates that rejection, also, lady, what are you doing here? Is that which can only be collected from deep in the ground of Lucus, Raffia. So why are you not using, like, anti-rejection, whatever? It's very interesting how we set up this scene, because we have the other scene with the doll, and the entire scene with the doll is meant to be a sexual act, which is not in the least stimulating, right? It doesn't feel sexual. It doesn't feel like you know what's happening, but you don't feel the sexual tension in the scene. The way everything is shot up with the doll that was being shown, with the way, like, the doll-like body of the woman that commissioned him, I guess, right? That bought him. That's my interpretation. I don't know if that's really true. Her being in ecstasy and getting to orgasm, but it doesn't feel sexual in any way, right? It feels horrifying. It feels threatening. It feels very uncomfortable as you're looking. This has a slight touch of uncomfortableness because of the kind of person we have already seen that she is, right? The way she acts. She's so high and mighty, and she's like seemingly doesn't care that much about him, right? And all of that. He's just like a toy for her. But you still have an extreme sexual tension happening here. Despite his expression being almost the same as in that episode, in that scene in episode 1. And still, maybe it's her expressions and the way she talks and the way the shots are being pulled, right? As we focus on certain areas and how we make it almost teasing in a way, right? Almost alluding at first and not going into the raw of it immediately. That builds up this atmosphere, this idea of tension, this atmosphere of sexual tension in the specific scene. But yeah, what is he like? He asks, "Why are you doing all of this for me?" But she doesn't answer that, right? We have very interesting close-up shots of both of their faces together. Right here. I mean, he's not as horrified as he was in the beginning. He's not as detached as he was in the beginning. But at the same time, he still doesn't like what's happening here. We have our bro here, Onishi-san, right? The mafia boss Onishi-san, who's meeting with the Salvation Union guy, who is absolutely 100% Techhnolyze and looks like an automaton or something. It's like in stark contrast to everybody else who's like, no, we don't want that. And she seems almost empathetic and feeling in this scene, right? When she's slowly stroking the limbs, and obviously it might be because she's trying to stimulate it in order to get it to have a reaction, right? In order to activate it properly or whatever, get the nerves going. But either way, she seems very, very much not confrontational, very much not sadistic in this very instance, very much not mean-spirited. But I guess it could be her professionalism, because she knows this is what is needed in the moment in order to get where she wants to go, which is implanting these things onto him. And he's riding again, right? Eating the porridge. Lucas is an interesting world. The people's body self-repair capability is degraded here as well. All right, so people seem to have body repair capabilities. I'm not sure if we're talking about supernatural in a way that things repair that would normally not, or if we're talking naturally, right? Like people, normal human beings get from sleep and that is degraded for them. So we have to kind of find a way to identify what the distinction is here. If it's one like that people used to have like supernatural body repair capabilities, or if it is that people just can't even regenerate as well from sleeping and the normal bodily function repair that every human being should have. And he says here as well, which suggests that the world, that the place where he's coming from has a similar issue. The people are, but maybe for this reason, the violence that takes place, the means used by the strongest to destroy the other body parts, which is something, the way he talks, that isn't the status quo where he comes from. Lucas is ruled by power. To the residents, the people of the class, those who, that was a very quick one, those who shut themselves up in another world, shut themselves in another world, probably, right? Those are the people of the class, and they're in their own world. That could mean two things as well. It could mean that they're just interacting in their own world of power, right? And just sitting at the mighty top. Or it could mean that they're literally inside of like a virtual world, but we haven't had any sign of that yet. Like the heads-up display that we had before, that is apparently the Techhnolyze stuff. So it can't be like that they're in some kind of technology, internet kind of virtual space created by themselves on the hill, are all but non-existent. Yeah, you need to hear that again. To the rest, and those who shut themselves up in another world, right? They're all but non-existent. They're living on a hill, basically. Oh, I'm thinking about that quote, like that Deus Ex quote, that quoted Aquinas with like the legendary city on the hill. Very interesting. Almost feels like it's going in that direction. To those who assert the fact that they are alive or under the rule of the organo, those who assert the fact that they are alive or under the rule of the organo. But we don't continue. This is ruled by power, blah, 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 to the residents, a non-existence, those who assert the fact that they are alive or under the rule of the organo. But he wants to continue that, and he doesn't, because he gets interrupted. And we don't get to know what's what. Fucking you. Please, stop it. We do have the nerves being connected, which is very, very uncomfortable, honestly. I do wonder if that flash of all of like the cables connected to him and whatnot, if that was right now, right? This scene. And she's very concentrated. I love how we blend in one scene into the other. Like we have all of these characters. What was his name? Onishi-san, the mafia boss, and Yoshi here, and our main character. And all of these scenes are being kind of really fluently crafted into one another, which I really like. It's very we always have kind of an overall atmospheric theme of the scene, and we definitely, I feel, have a lead scene that is kind of determining what we're doing with a specific sequence. The main character switches, but the lead scene is always there. In this case, for example, the lead scene is Yoshi's scene, where he's describing the city. And we do see a couple of things that are happening to our main character and to the mafia boss. Or to the organo boss or whatever. And they are spliced in, and they are atmospherically and thematically, and like from the tone of how they are displayed, they are congruent, which means in line, right, in the same direction as the main leading scene, Yoshi's scene in this case. But they all have their own themes, right, and they all have their own events going on. So yeah, that's a really cool way to display these things. Interesting that he had a meeting that with like the enemy leader, and he seems stressed when he's putting his fingers right to his nose, which almost like suggests to me headaches, because this is the thing that I would do when I have headaches. I would be like massaging my nose and my temples and whatnot. And then he grabs her, and she's supposedly his secretary, right? So I guess maybe he doesn't have a wife or anything. Who knows how sexual relations work in this specific world, right? It could be vastly different from what's the case with us. And her with her fucking smile and the thing running down her lips. It feels, in this very moment, right, she can be very sensual as well, but in this very moment it feels disgusting. I do remember that scene in 86 when they're talking about mild 86, early 86 spoilers, when they're talking about people dying on the battlefield and whatnot, and at the same time Lena's walking through the streets and is seeing everybody like eating, and you do see like the steak is being cut and they're putting it in the mouth, and the sauce strips, right, almost like greedy, disgusting, right? And at the same time, you're getting things told about people dying, bleeding out, and whatnot, right? There's this imagery, this disgust that is evoked by just fluids running down your mouth, which is something unseemly, right? Something people don't like to see, something that is not accepted in society in a way as a display of eating. Or that scene in Lord of the Rings where how was it called? I don't know, Denethor? It could be. And he's eating and he's popping the tomatoes and they're running down his chin and all of that while the people are attacking and basically sacrificing themselves in a needless attack that's not gonna have any effect. Just for show, for pretend, for arrogance, basically. For a ruler that doesn't understand his people. We have all the wires, right? This is a Lane shot, right? How many times have we had Lane and have like those fucking cables, right? The telephone, the telecommunication, electrical cables, whatever. And they're all above it. And I mean, Lane is different in many ways, right? Cyberspace and like even more trippy than this one. But yeah, that is a Lane shot. That is a definite Lane shot. And followed by a Lane-ish scene. Fisheye lens, the big face that is kind of distorted in a way that you would only get if you would be going at somebody in a weird camera angle. The sky up above is a very impressive picture, and he's just going there, right? Is she really there, or is he just imagining her or whatever, right? You don't know, you're not sure. The contents are more important than the gun. And then they meet Shinji, who is like apparently the leader of Rakan, whatever that is, maybe one of the gangs. Looks like one of the gangs. Yes, right, there is no need for you to be concerned. I won't consider applying the process introduced on the subject to your unit. Saying like, the thing I did to him, I ain't gonna do it to your guys, don't worry. Not yet. Personal favors. Bro is really out of it, right? The anesthetic is still working and he's just like angry. I mean, that wasn't a full body anesthetic. It's even worse for a full body anesthetic. You have people actually trying to stand up from the operations table. I worked in an operations, not in an operation, but at the operations room, right? Before bringing patients to the operations room and whatnot, and into anesthesia and whatnot. And yeah, sometimes people just stand up and they're not being like, no, I'm gonna stand up, and then you put them down and you're like, please. But they don't understand you, and then they're getting angry and frustrated and they're standing up again. It doesn't happen often, but it happens sometimes. Right? You don't know how a person reacts when they're waking back up, right? When all of like the autonomous nervous system functions that are supposed to be on all the time were were deactivated for some time, right? Artificially deactivated for you to actually do your operation, and then they're slowly coming back, and functions are gonna go on again, and right? And he has a lot of frustration and pain and whatnot, right? With all of the limbs and his mother, and right, most of this happening against his will, and I don't know. And I don't know what this scene exactly is, but it feels very much like she is having that vision, right? But it also feels like he is having that vision, because who is looking at her? Must be him, right? We do have that doll arm here, or that, like that, almost that technolized arm right here. That is kind of almost like the arm is holding him up, right? Not directly, because he's like off to the side a little bit, but it's like offering something to him. But he's dejected and blind for it, and suddenly he's in a mass of people, and she sees him, and he's dragging his leg. Not sure what he's doing. I don't know if he's actually out of there, right? If he escaped and actually managed to get out, and this is him, or if this is a dream of his, a vision of his, or if this is a dream of her, a vision of her, or if it's some of those or all of those. It's very trippy, and I do see, like, the first time, I think, the very first time I've seen Ran smile. And she says, I saw it. So this is her vision, I guess. Very curious. And as always, it leaves me with more questions than answers, but what can you do, right? And I mean, that's what makes it partially interesting, doesn't it? Yeah. That was Techhnolyze, episode 4. 4 out of 20, 22 or 28? I don't know. Like something, 20 something. What did we get ourselves into? I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, leave me a like, subscribe to the channel for more content. Jujutsu Kaisen, Spice and Wolf. Monogatari, one of the main runners right now. Once we're in October, ReZero as well. Don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna do it. Don't you worry about it, right? When I have less series, I can produce more for one series ahead of time, so later on when I actually do have less time, I can keep producing the stuff I want to produce, or at the very least when I take another series upon myself, I'm already ahead for the other series, so I can actually manage better. Oftentimes it's kind of a little bit wild because of the hard drive space is sometimes getting very narrow, and then I have to decide, okay, now I have to actually produce stuff and put it out and hope that it doesn't get like content ID struck or whatever, and get it out, right? And if it does get struck, I have to use like the archived versions that I do have and re-edit them, but then they're lower quality than the raw stuff that I could render in its like original footage and whatever. But you know how it goes, okay? Either way, it's a lot of fun, and I think I would not be continuing to watch a series that I don't find interesting. So far, the signs are good for Techhnolyze. All right. Yeah, that's about it. Check out the socials and come again next time. Next week's probably gonna be Monster, and week after that's gonna be another Techhnolyze. I'll see you then.